Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Good evening. Roll call of supervisors, please. I am aware of Supervisor Arrington, Esposito, Zerban, and Haas, I believe, who will not be in attendance this evening. And it would appear that is who we have missing. So we have 24 in attendance. First order of business is citizen comments. Citizens will have 5 minutes to address the board. Please state your name and address and speak directly into the microphone loudly if you would, please. Yes, sir.
Good evening, supervisors. My name is Captain Paul Faldudo. I'm the Detention Division Commander of the Sheriff's Department, 1055th Street. The reason I'm here tonight is to speak on behalf of Tom Genthner. Tom is the chosen replacement for Sue Marcinkus as Director of Joint Services. I've had the pleasure of working with Tom as my partner in the drug unit back in the 90s and working with him in our administrative roles between the police department and the sheriff's department. I can tell you that Tom is a very good choice for this position, and I think he will do well to take joint services into the next decade. I know the sheriff wasn't able to be here tonight, but he feels as strongly as I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen wishing to address the board?
Good evening. Peter S., 558 11th Place. And I'm here to speak about Agenda Item G from the Judiciary and Law Committees regarding the probationary cabaret license for Climax Tavern. At the Law and Judiciary Committee meeting last week, it was a 7-0 vote to deny a cabaret license to Climax based on a report of the Kenosha Sheriff's Department regarding the safety and also Kenosha Planning and Development determining that there are 12 parking spots available and the club needs 22 to be in compliance. So I would like to applaud the committee on coming around and changing their position. I do have two questions, though. As of today, the certificate of compliance conditions of approval states that they should have their 12 parking stalls striped by September 9th. Those stalls have not been striped as of this date. And also, they are advertising a fish fry for Friday. They have a liquor license, not a restaurant license. So if someone could answer those questions, why the lot hasn't been striped and they yet remain in business, and how they can host a fish fry without a restaurant license, I would like somebody to answer that question for me. Otherwise, I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens wishing to address the board? I'll need your name, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Dr. Jim Moore, resident of the city of Kenosha. I reside at 9218 74th Place in the city. Over 6.5 years ago, 11 members of this board sitting before me put all your chips on the table, gambling on an intergovernmental agreement in the hope that Kenosha County would hit the jackpot in a casino. Now, 6 years later, this county board still sits, wasting time and taxpayer money, addicted to the notion that a billion-dollar idea will come to fruition. Ladies and gentlemen, it's past time to move on. While the glimmer of hope always remains in a gambler's eye, the realist knows when it's time to move on. It's time this county board, with 17 new members from 6 years ago who did not vote on that original IGA, it's time you take the lead and put your concentrated efforts and your resources into finding a secure developer for this prime piece of real estate, someone that would keep this property on the tax rolls. This is not the time to provide a fourth extension, when questions remove and loom larger and larger every day. You owe it to the taxpayer to resolve your questions before you vote on an extension. Consider the realities of 2011 when you consider a 6-year-old agreement. This proposal needs to be vetted in light of these current realities, not only by our corporation council, but by the council of those informed about the changing Indian gaming regulations in the President Obama administration. The economic challenges cannot be overlooked. Our community was promised a quote-unquote world-class venue, but with the crash of the economy, the abandonment of Mohegan financing, will that really happen? Yes, the Mohegans still want to manage the thing, but they had promised money in the situation. Kenosha's situation with the Mohegans sound vaguely familiar to the casino pros proposed for Palmer, Massachusetts in 2006. Think of the parallels here, friends. 2006, that too was a $1 billion project, and it's been cut in half as it's progressed. I'm sure you read the Friday Wall Street Journal. It reported Mohegan Sun profits down 3 to 6% every month during the last year, except for one, due to the economy and increased competition. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a tremendous fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of this county. Your constituents expect you to do more than just put a rubber stamp on this cotton-picking casino. Can you continue to promise them that all the amenities of the $1 billion project will be delivered? Are you confident that financing can be found for this ambitious plan? Don't leave us hanging with a 6-year-old agreement while you're piddling around trying to answer the questions. Let's get past this thing and look to the future. Let's find a developer that will bring a fine quality of life initiative to this piece of real estate. Let's put the resources of an organization like CABA on it, on this initiative, and quit anxiously holding out for that elusive straight flush. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I am Angela Hale from Climax, and the reason I am
Ms.
here...
Hale, address, please.
I'm sorry, 1091 Sheridan Road.
Thank you.
And I do have a certificate of compliance from the County Development Division Director, and that was approved on 8/29/2011. And really don't know what else to say. I just think in the beginning, just got judged for no apparent reason. Just wanted to open a tavern, be in recession right now, something that I know how to do best. Run a bar, I love being with people. And I just wish they can, get my cabaret license. I don't think it'd be a bad idea. Everybody should have an opportunity to do, what they want to do. And I did have other people look at the parking, and I don't know how he got 12, but I am going to look into that. So I think, it should be enough parking to get cabaret. I don't want anyone to be unsafe. Nothing can do about that, but and we even plan on changing the name. We're trying to accommodate the neighbors. A lot of them been coming there talking to me, and a lot of people, don't have a problem with it, but I do. They recommended that, so I said that's fine. I can do that. Like I said, I'm really trying to work with everyone so everybody can be safe, but I just want a chance. That's it. But I don't think I should be denied my cabaret license. I just don't think that's fair at this time. That's all I have to say. I don't know if anybody wants to see this certificate of compliance. I know they keep saying that we're not in compliance, but I think the state is doing what they can do, so we are in compliance.
The document you have, I know, is available to the county supervisors. If anyone needs it, certainly they can ask for it. I recognize you are in compliance with some conditions that you have a timeline to meet.
Exactly.
So I appreciate it. Anything else?
No.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Anyone else wishing to address the board? Last call for citizen comments. Citizen comments are closed. Announcements of the chairman. A couple of things. You've got an amended agenda in front of you. The only issue here has to do with the cabaret license for Lumpy's. It was originally listed as not listed as a probationary, I believe, or vice versa. Either way, that's the one issue that was changed. There are a number of resolutions in the packet tonight, number 54, 57, and 59 that you received without signatures. They have all been signed. I believe they all passed the committees unanimously. They're not signed in your packet just based on the timing of the issues that were on the various committee agendas. Flu shots, October 4th, if you're interested, before the county board meeting. There is currently on its way to the Judiciary and Law Committee the concealed carry ban on weapons in public buildings. I want to ask the chairman of the Judiciary and Law as well as the Public Works and Facilities to entertain. I went into the courthouse the other day for the hearing on the redistricting issue. Walked in simultaneously with another gentleman. By the time I turned around to empty my pockets in the basket, he was on his way through, no metal detector, nothing, and on his way up the stairs. This came up years ago on this very board floor. Security is only as good as the loopholes. Apparently you can continue to buy the pass as an attorney or whatever other caveat exists to allow you into the building, and I would ask the two committee chairmen to take a look at that issue once again. If you're going to ban concealed carry but let somebody walk into the courthouse with a pass that they paid $10 for, you simply do not have security. So I'm going to ask the two to look at it. I'll settle for nothing other than everyone through the metal detector. Your decision to bring forward, and I hope you will. We met with our state delegation, as was reported, I believe, in the Kenosha News and elsewhere. I thought it was a good discussion in general. There was quite a bit of conversation back and forth. We asked for some information to look into certain issues that were before the state, certainly how and in what fashion they may or may not affect Kenosha County or counties in general throughout the state. Much was reported on the willingness and openness to cooperate and the bipartisan feeling that's going to be sweeping through the state of Wisconsin, and I trust the nation at some point in time. That was on Thursday. On Sunday, I attended the United We Sing, which was the 10th anniversary memorial of 9/11. I also then saw in the paper shortly after that a cartoon that I think sums the entire atmosphere up, for me anyways, which was the two symbols of the two parties arguing over what the motto was on 9/11. One, of course, said, "Always remember." The other, of course, said, "Never forget," until they came to battle and blows on the street over who was right. So it struck me, with all that went on, that, you know, we talked for how long now, and particularly on the 10th anniversary, of how this country, citizens, emergency management workers, and the government came together to respond to a crisis. I am of the opinion we have a crisis in this country that is like none other, and it is time they respond in a like fashion to solving the woes, the economic problems that we have and everything else, and bury some of this partisanship. I didn't get the sense whatsoever at the meeting with our delegation that there was going to be anything remotely close to bipartisanship, regardless of what they told you. We can all come together and stand out in Pleasant Prairie and expand TIF districts and bring grant money in to lure companies, and that's not, in my opinion, bipartisanship. Those are what I refer to as no-brainers. So we have a crisis like we have never had in this country, and it's time that our elected officials, I've looked at myself in the mirror, from the state, or from the local level on up, our federal legislators need to wake up and understand there's a crisis in this country. It may not be claiming lives at the rapid rate that catastrophes do and attacks do, but nonetheless, it's a problem that I hope they can certainly get past. In the paper, and I maybe should have started with this out of respect for a gentleman who has done so much for Kenosha County, the city of Kenosha, Bill Anderson, who was at one point in time a county board supervisor, has recently passed away at 87 years old. Certainly a gentleman who advocated in business, advocated in politics on a local level, ran for a state office, someone who did a great deal for Kenosha throughout his life, he and his family, and will certainly be remembered by many, and all of his contributions to Kenosha, primarily here on the Kenosha County Board, I think should not go unnoticed. So again, Mr. Anderson passed away this week at 87 years old. For any questions that may be out there on the, I had an email today that touched 10 people within Kenosha County for a $20 expenditure. So I can clear up any misconceptions about the need to purchase a, I believe it's called a secure digital card for any department who has an oversight, interaction with an oversight committee to download our minutes digitally from any one of our meetings. Let's not get into an email trail about whose budget the $20 is going to come out of, for crying out loud. It needs to, if there's any, I'm saying to the committee chairman in the room, Carl Samuelson with the IT department, if there's any question, contact him. This is a very simple, very inexpensive policy that we passed. Mr. Samuelson will walk you through it. He'll purchase at $20 out of his budget. If we need to buy 5 of them, I'd be surprised. He's prepared to help out, as he has been all along. So I trust that if there's any question, the chairman of the committees can direct the staff to work with the IT department. And I believe that is all I have. Supervisor reports. Supervisor Michael.
Mr. Chairman, prior to going into my report, I just have a quick question on one of your concerns regarding the courthouse security. I know the county exec has implemented, basically Mr. Riedel is the czar of the courthouse. It's not by the sheriff's department. And the policy, because I was in the committee when it was discussed, basically the judges had requested that attorneys are the ones that are able to get a yearly pass, and every year they have to re-up their, I believe it's $15 to get the pass to be able to go quickly, and that was one of the concerns of the judges, so that they can enter and get in and out of the courthouse quickly. So I guess, do you wish, when we discuss the resolution regarding the carry and conceal, that Mr. Riedel should be present? I guess I'm somewhat concerned. And
I'm certainly open to that. The point I'm making is Texas, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, list them all where attorneys have gone into buildings and others with weapons. It needs to be secured. I'd love Mr. Riedel to be a part of it.
Okay.
And I think I didn't recall, but you're correct that he's in charge of that, so happy to have him part of the discussion. He probably should be.
Okay, I appreciate that. Going on, September 14th, the Judiciary and Law met. We did speak about several of the resolutions that are in front of the board today. The first one we discussed was basically Mr. Gunther was approved by our committee. He was chosen by the Joint Services Board, and I just want to apologize. In your packet, it wasn't signed off. Somehow there was a glitch in our committee. We did not have the actual resolution in front of us, but what I can tell the members of this board, he did pass unanimously. He was there, Mr. Riedel was there. Regarding the benefit package, it is the same benefit package that we had, that this board had adopted for Mr. Zarletti, because both parties have very scholarly individuals. Their resumes are very similar. They're very active in law enforcement. So that I apologize for the fact that our committee did not sign off on the resolution. All the members did sign off prior, just briefly before this meeting started. So there is a signed copy, but within your packet, people did not receive the signed copy of that resolution. And Mr. Gunther is here, so when that comes up in our meeting, he'll be happy to answer any questions. There was 2 other resolutions that are on the agenda, and I'm asking that both of them are going to be pulled, and I can give brief reasoning why. The first one is G46, which is the resolution that deals with the cabaret license of the Climax Tavern. That was denied in our committee. It did not receive a second. The members requested that that the cabaret would be denied. Climax would be denied a cabaret license. And the sole reason for this was the fact that we had received information from the Sheriff's Department and the Planning and Development Department that there was basically, there's not enough parking. It came down to the fact that there's only 12 spots, and for a cabaret license, clearly the ordinance reads that it has to have appropriate parking. The building itself holds about 90 individuals. That's what the fire requirements are. The individual spoke. She stated that they would be having functions that would have a substantial amount of individuals, and that is the sole reason why it was denied a cabaret license. The reason why we're asking that Lumpy's also be taken off the agenda is the fact that we received information from the clerk's office that there's been basically a dispute with the owners of that, the investors in that establishment. One of the investors who has the cabaret license basically is separating from that organization. He took his license and said he does not wish for this corporation to receive a cabaret license. So the other investor is basically reapplying. So at this time, I'm asking that also be taken off the agenda.
All right.
Thank you.
Following supervisor reports, we'll poll your committee to
Thank
remove
you.
both of those items. And just for a little bit further clarification, on item 46, which is Club Climax, the Corporation Council will bring forward at the next meeting a resolution drafted in the negative to match the position of the committee.
Correct, and also the recommendation of the sheriff's department, because in their resolution, it makes it seem as if they are asking for the approval, which they are not.
Understood.
Thank you.
And that was a recommendation by Corporation Council for further clarification. Anything else?
No.
Supervisor Elverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From Public Works, Facility, Highways, Parks, Golf. The one thing that I didn't want to forget is, because it's sneaking up on us, I know everyone got these flyers, October 1st, the Oktoberfest, which is sponsored by the Kiwanis, Kenosha County Parks, and Heidi's Bakery. Paddock Lake, it's going to be quite the event, and it's going to be at Old Settlers Park. Car shows, wiener dog races, I'm just reading this, polka bands, somehow this, and fireworks. But the promotion is going on, and it's going to be a very nice event. And for people that are from this area, Paddock Lake is easy. It's just Highway 50, no turns, nothing, just straight, so that we can get some of you out that way. The other items from facilities, Mr. Chairman, the courthouse Molinaro restoration project. We have gotten behind on that project. Some of it's weather related. Some of it, I know I reported at our last meeting, was our choosing of different grout products that took a little time to do. 13 and a half days lost in inclement weather. So right now the employment is up. I know I've reported before at about 25 workers. It's up to 37 workers on site because they were getting behind. The Illinois employment is up to 13, 7 from Kenosha and 17 from other Wisconsin areas. The reason the Illinois employment is up is that the union hall for people that were qualified to do this type of work in Wisconsin was empty. So there's more Illinois workers on the site at this time. The roof replacement on the Molinaro building is scheduled to begin September 20th. The update on the parking structure, the gates, safety gates, the lighting, and security, that, as I reported before, was going out to bids. That's a state-controlled project, and the bids were in the middle of this month, so I'll be able to report at our next meeting. Brookside demo project, August 8th they were supposed to start the asbestos removal. That's going to take 2 weeks. In October, that whole building should be down and gone. We have all our permits from the city for the demolition and for grinding of the concrete products on the site. Corporation Council remodel relocate project. The bids were on the 13th of this month. The work was to begin on the 19th, and November 1st it's to be completed. so they should be in November 1st, supposedly. Kenosha County Detention Center exterior doors, the bids were on the 14th of this month, and I haven't heard the beginning date of those projects. The resolution to ban firearms you touched on, Mr. Chairman, and that went from our committee unanimously to the Judiciary and Law. Highway, Parks, and Golf, the Highway Director reported to us on paving projects. The golf cart paving projects at both Petrifying Springs and Brightondale golf courses. The Brightondale project was funded through FEMA. If you remember the flooding rains that we had in our previous season, we did receive some FEMA dollars for that. We're now on the South Bike Trail, and after that the North Bike Trail. And I want to remind people how these paving projects came to fruition. It was from this county board and from the Highway and Parks Committee's recommendations that we look into buying smaller paving machines and doing some of our own work. If you remember, the state and certain members of our legislative group tried to block that. It was a heavy highway lobby that was trying to block us from being able to do our own work. Cooler heads prevailed. We were able to do this work in Kenosha County on our own, and we're doing two things. We are keeping our paving crew working, and we're saving Kenosha County dollars at the same time. The golf division, if we look at the number of rounds, we are down. In the month of August, we hosted more rounds than in any month in the last 2 years, but we're down. We're behind in sales. We are still, however, getting more dollars per round. I know that's a little bit hard to convince people that we're doing better, but in the people that we get at the golf course, we're getting a higher profit amount out of those people. So they're diligently working, but we definitely are down again. Parks, we have no more of the movies. That's all done for the year. The Oktoberfest I touched on. The Star Party, I don't know if I mentioned that at our last meeting. It was the Lake County Astronomical Society that came out. They were there from 8 until midnight. We're hoping to get them to do it again. It was well attended. It was very interesting to see. And the highlight was later in the evening. I was gone, but Mr. Rudy told me. As the lights calmed down, people were able to view the joint facility between the U.S. and the Russians. Can't think of the name.
Space
right
Station.
Now. Space Station. And they said that was a highlight of the evening. So I'll stop there, Mr. Chairman.
It's likely I dozed off during your comments, so if I repeat something you said, you lost me at the Wiener Dog car show, which I'm just picturing how that works. In any event, we have on the 28th, September 28th at 2 p.m., the Green Ribbon Park Planning Committee will meet for the next meeting. We're getting very close to being able to bring something forward to the county board as an interim or a preliminary plan to bring you up to speed on where that sits. It's exciting. It's looking very good at this point in time. And I had one other, on the golf courses, we have a meeting that we're trying to schedule, another follow-up in terms of the committee and the group who have been talking about moving the golf course forward. I know there's a date that's been thrown out there waiting for me, I believe, to respond to that. And they have formed a citizen committee, users of the golf course and others. I believe Supervisor Gail Gens is on that committee, if I'm not mistaken. So that is in place, and looking for input from users of our facilities in terms of how we can continue to improve and continue to grow. I will say I played in the county executive outing that benefits junior golf last week, and I will say it without any hesitation, I have not played a golf course anywhere all summer long that has better tee boxes and greens than Brightondale Blue, I think is what we played. Absolutely impeccable putting surfaces. So we are certainly what they tell us. I continue to believe it when I see it, and I've seen it several times this summer. So,
Oh, Mr. Chairman, one last thing. I guarantee you will not doze off at the wiener dog races.
oh, it was races. See, I missed that. Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Supervisor Kohlmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last night I attended the annual school board meeting, Kenosha Unified, where the Kenosha Unified School Board proposed to increase the tax levy by 2.29%. This is the first time in my memory, and I was told it was 1994, that the residents of Kenosha County did not accept the proposed tax levy. They actually decided to freeze the tax levy from last year, and I think this is an important message for our own body. That, to me, the message was clear. I listened to over an hour of citizens' comments last night, and citizen after citizen just said, we have no more tax money to give this year. This year's different. We've sacrificed too much. We've worked too hard to basically stay even or go backwards. Everybody sacrificed, and the concept of just a taxing authority in town bringing a 2 to 3% tax increase and assuming that it's modest and it'll be acceptable, I think that's gone this year. And I think all of us need to work harder to get this tax levy to 0%. And I think the people expect that, and the people want that. And that's the message I got out of it last night. So, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On your desk is the general fund year-end estimate. We're trending up, that we're going to be up about $300,000 for the year. Health insurance projected deficit continues to increase to $1.7 million. It's probably the biggest change from what we had in prior month. Human Services is projecting an overall surplus of $900,000. I just want to point out that Brookside is projecting a $200,000 deficit. Supervisor Elverman spoke about golf. I don't have the exact number of the deficit, but they are again projecting a deficit that will be absorbed by Public Works. However, golf has closed the gap, but still they are losing money. The other thing I wanted to mention is next month, our first meeting, we're going to be getting the county executive's budget, and the committees will start acting on those budgets. The public hearings from Finance Committee will be on Tuesday the 25th, Wednesday the 26th, Thursday the 27th, and then Monday the 31st, with a little caveat in there: if the Brewers are in the World Series, we may have to reschedule. So, thank you.
But when I mentioned I'd be on vacation that Thursday and Monday, it was no big deal.
I was just holding back.
Any other supervisor comments? Also, I don't know if you mentioned this, the audit bills over $5,000 are on your desk. Take a look at those. If you've got any questions, I'm sure Chairman Clark would be happy to answer them. Seeing no other comments, at this point I'm going to ask Chairman Michael to poll his committee, which is County Board Policy, to pull resolution number 46 and 58 from the agenda, and I would ask you to do that independently, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Haas and Supervisor Zurban are both excused. Supervisor Ronald Johnson, Supervisor David Singer, Supervisor Ronald Frederick, Supervisor John Grulich, and Chairman votes aye.
That's 46, correct?
Correct.
58, please.
And again, Supervisor Johnson, Supervisor Singer, Supervisor Frederick. Okay. And Supervisor Grulich. And Chairman votes aye.
All right, so for the public who are here on items 46 and 58, they have both been pulled from the agenda. 46 has no is scheduled currently to come back at the next county board meeting, which will be October 4th, with a revised resolution from Corporation Council. 58 has no current schedule for coming back. It'll be a reapplication for a cabaret license, correct? Okay, clerk.
Ordinance 12 from Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee regarding proposed comprehensive plan amendment. Paul Alexiak, owner, requests an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035 from park and recreational to suburban density residential in the town of Randolph. Brunig, yes. Esposito, yes. Kohlmeyer, yes. Underhill, yes. Decker, yes. Hallman, yes. Gable, yes.
Supervisor Brunig.
Move ordinance number 12.
Ordinance 12 moved by Brunig, seconded by Supervisor Kohlmeyer. Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These documents would approve an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan. The petitioner would then be able to continue the process to submit an application for a rezoning from park and recreational to suburban density residential on tax parcel number 60-4-119-163-0800 located in the town of Randall. The Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee reviewed this information at their September 14th, 2011 meeting and recommended approval, as well as the town of Randall recommended approval also. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Noble.
I believe we just adopted this plan within a month or two. I was just curious, what is the turnaround here? What's in the works, and was it an error, or is there something in the works?
To answer that, every time someone comes forward with a rezoning, they need to have the plan maps changed. This falls in line with their neighborhood plan. Unfortunately, this piece of property was located where it combined two different locations, and when they tried to narrow the town of Randall down as to which zoning they wanted on the property, they never responded, so it went through to the state with all of the zonings on it. So they're just clarifying it now.
So it's a mistake.
Yes.
Anything else, Supervisor Noble? Thank you. Any other comment? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution or ordinance 12 signify by saying aye. Those opposed, ordinance 12 carries.
Resolution 54 from Executive Committee, a resolution in support of extension of intergovernment cooperation agreement with Menominee Indian Nation. Molinaro, yes. Akernis, yes. Clark, yes. Alverman, yes. Michael, yes. Noble, yes. Brunig, yes.
Vice Chairman Akernis.
I move resolution 54.
Resolution 54 moved by Akernis, seconded by Supervisor Noble. Supervisor Akernis.
This resolution extends the IGA between the city of Kenosha, the county, and the Menominee tribe on the casino project for another 90 days. This is recommended by our Corporation Council and the independent council that we have employed in Washington, D.C. They feel that this is to our advantage to approve this extension at this time.
Thank you. Supervisor Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to speak against the extension this evening, as I have at the last time that this came up. All we are doing here is postponing the planning and development of this important piece of property for the future. This is not a new issue to come before this board. This whole idea of a casino has been on the in the process of promotion for over 10 years. If they can't get this done in a period of some exceeds 10 years, what are the real chances are? Is there anyone on this board who really believes that they are going to see a casino built there or anywhere else in this community in our lifetimes? In our lifetimes. Does anybody really believe this? I think it's just an illusion of development. It's an idea who has come and passed. The only ones who haven't gotten the picture are the proponents of this. If I honestly thought there was going to be a development on this piece of land, and we were going to have all of this employment that has been promised year after year, and hotels, et cetera, we could vote for it this evening in good conscience because of the economic situation that we find ourselves in. But what we are doing here is proposing an illusion to the general public that in fact we are doing something. This is prime real estate. If there is somebody out there who is interested in developing this real estate across the country, who wants to bring some factory, some warehouse, some other entertainment facility to it, they're not going to take a look at this as long as Kenosha County and the City of Kenosha and the proponents of this project have this on the front burner. Do you think the government, the U.S. government, is really going to approve of this when the City of Chicago is promoting a casino development expansion in their community? This is direct competition to that. I can't see the President approving of a casino in this location as competition to his home state and his home city of Chicago. Can you see the governor of this state going against the Potawatomis who are opposed to this in opposition in the city of Milwaukee? Do you believe this really has any chance here? And what are we going to do in this 90 days? We keep postponing it, extension, for what purpose? Where are we in the process? And what are the plans? Mr. Olson, what are those plans for financing? People can't even finance the purchase of a home in this community, yet they think they can get financing for a casino development when other casinos around this country, including Las Vegas, are seeing a substantial downturn in business and losing money, yet they believe that there are CDOs out there that can finance this. Well, we've heard it once too often from the school board. I'm not confident in it, and I don't think the community ought to be confident in it either. I urge your opposition this evening. Let's put this issue to bed, to rest once and for all, and let's get on with the real development of this land. If they haven't done it in 10 years, they're not going to do it in the next 90 days.
Thank you. Supervisor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was thinking they were going to put a Walmart out there once they got the land, but anyhow, in the last 90 days, we had a meeting in August, and we had a very substantive meeting. Very significant questions were coming out with questions that needed to be answered. We have retained outside counsel to handle this matter. They are looking at it, and Frank, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they said they needed more time to provide some information or give us the opinions that were needed and recommended. So this did not sit idle for 90 days to come forward, for another extension. There has been significant movement in Washington. The tribe, as I understand, has a meeting next week out there to determine exactly what additional information is going to be required of them, and there is a short time frame that they're going to be able to act on it. In my conversation with Mr. Olson, who represents the tribe locally, he threw out a number that $7 million has been expended on this project to date, trying to get this thing off the ground. I think we owe it to them for their investment in Kenosha to at least give them that opportunity to exhaust it. I know when we talked previously, and we talked in committee and said, listen, if they're not going to give us the approval, they're going to withdraw at the options. There are provisions that are out there. Certainly, this is prime real estate, and certainly we want to get this on the tax rolls. However, I would suggest that there's prime real estate sitting on the interstate in Pleasant Prairie that is ready to go, shovel ready, and people are not banging down our doors to come there. So you can deny this. I don't know that it's going to make anything happen quicker, but I'm supporting this now because I think that we are close to a decision. And we're close to a decision. The final point on financing, it was reported to us that there is a financial feasibility being undertaken right now, and that information will be presented to us as well. So I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Kohlmeyer.
Thank you. I agree with Supervisor Rose and wholeheartedly agree with my predecessor in this role that this is not a realistic proposition. I would like to see economic development come to Kenosha and jobs more than anyone, or just as much as all of you do. But I just think I think this is not realistic. It's not going to happen. And the longer we delay this, the longer we actually, we're withholding real job creation at this site. And I think we got to get this, done and let somebody else come in and start giving us proposals. So thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Jeffkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last time this came up before us, I had some questions. At that time, I did support the extension because that's what my district had asked me to do back when the referendums were taken. My first question was going to be what's changed in the last 90 days, what's happened in the last 90 days. And Supervisor Clark answered that by saying that they had a meeting in September where some questions were put forward. I'd kind of like to know what those questions were and what the answers were. Is there any way we can get a report on that meeting or find out the information that maybe, we might all have questions that we would have liked to have asked, and maybe you guys asked them and then it didn't get back to us. So I would kind of like to know what happened at that meeting. The second thing that I'm going to bring up is, that there was a grandiose plan that was presented in the newspaper and presented to the elected officials at that time of what would happen in that area. And I don't know if that's realistic now. I don't know if they've been working on different plans to present to us to let us know what actually is going to go there. Then the financing. Supervisor Clark just mentioned that they're going to get some answers to the financial questions. Through the chair, when is that going to happen to Supervisor Clark?
Supervisor Clark.
I don't have an answer to that question. Certainly, Mr. Olson is here from the tribe. He may be able to answer that question better.
Through the chair to Mr. Olson.
Mr. Olson.
Good evening, Eric Olson, 7705 49th Avenue. And I also have here Bruce Pecor and Myrna Warrington. And to Supervisor Rose, I do not represent the school board anymore, so any comments I make are not from the school board, they're from the tribe. The questions that were asked, the report, again, when we had our meeting, I'll let the chairman talk about the request came from this board to delay it 60 to 90 days. It didn't come from the tribe. And we are going to get as it turned out, the financial report that's being written up will be available next week. And our plan is to get together again with the city and the county and give them this financial report as to how we'll be financed. As far as the plans, they've not changed from 6 years ago. They have not, we've not changed anything in the IGA that spells out exactly the scope of this project, how it will be built, how many jobs it will create. We are very, very close, very close. I'll let Bruce talk about what's going on in Washington, including some new developments with projects that have been approved around the country. As far as the land out there, Supervisor Rose mentioned that maybe we could put a warehouse. As I recall, just east of the Dairyland property, there's a 300,000 square foot warehouse that's been sitting empty for 3 years. I've been driving past it every day. So I'll let Bruce Pecor from the Menominee tribe discuss some of the other issues.
All right, if I could, before you do that, Supervisor Gens has the floor.
You answered my question. Thank you. I don't need to go on unless somebody has a question.
All right, I want to clarify one thing, if I may.
Okay.
And it goes to your question, which is the delay. Why the delay? The recommendation for a 60 to 90-day delay came from our outside counsel out of Washington, based on a deadline of October 2nd, I believe, that was established after we had defined the schedule the last time for filing of the additional information. So the recommendation came from our counsel in Washington, not from this body. Go ahead.
Okay. And then the last point that I would make is, have we talked with the other participants in the IGA to make sure that was all squared away? I know we keep extending it, but legally, through the chair to the corporation council, it's all still in place as per when it was drawn up. I wasn't even on the board then, but that would be a concern to make sure that everybody is still in agreement. I know that the last time that we had an extension, it was brought up that there were going to be some questions between the city and the county and maybe anybody else who was involved on whether or not that IGA was still in force, the terms were still in place.
There were 3 agreements. There was an agreement between the county, the city, the gaming authority for the Menominee and the Menominee tribe. That was the primary IGA. There was a second IGA that was between the county gaming authority and the Menominee pertaining to sales tax. And there was a third intergovernmental agreement between the city and the county pertaining to the distribution of our portion of net win. All of those IGAs are being extended from time to time here. They are all still in effect. The resolution that's before you tonight references those 3 IGAs. There's a lot of questions that have been presented to the tribe dealing with many of the issues that you have raised pertaining to financing, projected net win, projected construction costs, what they're going to be building out, the viability of the environmental impact statement. All of these are going to take time. The original proposal was to give an extension of about 3 years. This piecemeal approach was necessitated because so many of these issues have not been totally answered yet, and it would be unrealistic to expect to get all of the answers to all of the issues which I just raised. The other thing that I would comment on is that the tribe has informed the county after they were notified a couple of months ago about the change in direction by the BIA that there would be a settlement with the BIA regarding their litigation. That just took place. I think it was finalized within the last couple of weeks, so things were held back, I think, because of that. The other thing is that I was told that there were 3 recent decisions by the BIA pertaining to the award or grant of trust status to certain land, 3 different areas around the country. 2 of them were granted, 1 was not. The one that was not was just, this just came within the last couple of weeks. They are trying to study and find out just why it was denied, what the problems were, and to see if those can be also addressed in an amendment to the IGA.
Thank you. My last point will be to the chairman who chairs the executive committee. When you guys made this determination to go out 90 days, is it your belief that within 90 days this will get done? Or some of our questions will be answered? Or
We made the recommendation almost solely on the fact that our outside counsel recommended 90 days to get to a point where we will have the definition, answers, schedule out of the federal government to determine if a longer, what period of time a longer extension might be feasible. So in the discussions we've had to piggyback on Corp Council, there are this issue on 60th Street, which is out there and open, we need to discuss. a reopener language that is out there needs to be discussed, as well as the issue of the management team that the tribe is prepared to come forward and answer fully. Short term was the October 2nd deadline. Recommendation from our council to give them time to determine whether or not the issues involved in that submittal, in fact, we could continue to address down the road. The answer to that, for your information, is yes. The IGA continues to be in play after the deadline for the submittal of October 2nd. Continues to be editable. So it doesn't close the door on that discussion either. That was the rationale of the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Elverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple comments. And the having been around this topic from the beginning, and I think a lot of supervisors weren't, and I hope that everyone's understanding some of this conversation this evening. By extending this for the 90 days, this certainly isn't the end of this. This is to give us time to get some answers to decide whether we want to extend it long term. You would be looking at an extension possibly of a year while everything is worked out. The couple comments made this evening that these people couldn't get this done in 10 years. You know, when they applied for this, and when we did this IGA in 2005, they would have accepted this the next week. It's not by any amount of lack of work done by the Menominees or the county or the city. It was the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the government holding this up. In their recent winning of their suit against the BIA, they're getting a second look. We do not have a line of people looking at that property. We certainly cannot be naive enough to think that they would build a $1 billion facility in this economy, but a $500 million facility isn't being built in Kenosha County at this time. I do believe that a drop-off in what they may do out there is certainly possible. You cannot anticipate what it may be, but you can anticipate that whatever happens there, whether it's half of what they proposed, is going to be numerous construction jobs, numerous full-time jobs, if it gets to see daylight. The only way we get to know if this gets to see daylight is to have this 90-day extension. I want to be clear, though, that this 90-day extension is not the end of it. There's going to be a long-term extension, but all these agreements are reworked. We all know how difficult a time we've had with the city in our recent intergovernmental agreements. That one in 2005 I thought took a long time. That was easy compared to just the safety building and things. So that will have to be reworked. We'll have reworking with the Menominee Nation and whoever is operating the facility. So I guess the decision that everyone here has to make is a $500 million facility worth taking on and taking the chance, and if 90 days by our inside counsel and outside counsel is what's recommended to do, I'm certainly all in favor of that, and I don't see any of our constituents saying, don't do this 90 days. If after 90 days we see some of the facts and figures that they're coming, then we can make a decision. Do we do a year? Do we do a year and a half? I've heard up to 3-year extension. Do we do that? I think then you can make that decision, but this is I believe, a high priority right now to do this 90-day. I know I said this at the last 90-day, but I think it's serious enough jobs and serious enough development that we need to do this. So I would urge everyone to take that chance this evening, and you'll have definitely a chance to change that decision in 90 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Eckerness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we do not extend this IGA, we run the risk of killing the project for the Menominee, because the application would no longer be complete. They would not have an IGA, including the county in place, and that could have a very negative impact on the decision the Bureau of Indian Affairs would make. In the event that it didn't kill it, that would leave us out of the loop as far as getting any revenue return from this project, and we would lose that way. Extending this IGA and keeping this project alive doesn't cost us anything. As was mentioned, there's a 300,000 square foot warehouse right across the street from that dog track, and it's been empty for years now, and I don't see any prospect for a tenant anytime soon. That is not, it's prime location, but it's not a prime piece of property the way it sits. Somebody's got to tear down all the structures on there to make it of any kind of value. Look at how many years the dog track up at the Dells sat before they finally tore it down and the project went in there. It's, you're not going to see anybody pursuing that property anytime soon for anything. It don't cost us anything to extend this, and since the application is alive again, there is activity on it again, and hopefully there'll be a good result. But we know that the federal government is going to drag its feet, and it's not going to be because of us or because of the Menominee or the city. It's because the federal government likes to drag its feet. So we need to approve this tonight and let this project continue on. We got nothing to lose here and a lot to gain. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Much of my colleagues have already said most of what needs to be said, so I'll keep it very short. The people of my district are in favor of this. I'm in favor of this. I've been in favor of this in the past. Basically, in short, there's an awful lot of moving parts to this. This is just the beginning. Our job is just to put a little bit of gas in the car and see where it ends up. As to the question as to whether or not it will be there in our lifetimes, statistically, I'm told I have 60 years left. I don't intend to go anywhere, God willing, so when I get to the other side, I'll let you know how it shakes out. Thank you.
I'll be waiting. Supervisor Kubicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be supporting this resolution 54. I'm willing to give the Menominee Nation an extension of 90 days. My district in the past have supported this not only once but twice, and still in continued support of it. Anytime you have the ability to create jobs and development, I'm willing to give it a chance. And in closing, I'd like to just say you can't win unless you play. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Rose.
Let's keep in mind, and don't forget, the Bush administration and with Secretary of the Department of Interior at that time rejected this. This has been rejected once. And then the thought was that, well, President Obama was going to be elected and he would favor it. And here we are now approaching the next presidential election and still no approval from the national government and no support from the president. Now, he hasn't rejected it, but he hasn't supported it either. And do you really think that he's going to support it under this kind of environment? The Menominees had to commence a lawsuit here to get back in the game. And all that lawsuit was, they didn't win that suit, it was settled. Government said, okay, we'll consider your application. Yeah, it's kind of a freebie. Doesn't mean they're going to get anywhere with that application, we'll consider it. And then they said, well, you got to start all over again, and then they contested that. Are they starting all over again, or are they in the middle of it? Do they need a new environmental impact study or not? That's another issue. Now, when the federal government and politicians don't want to say no, but they don't want to say yes either, this is exactly what you do. You put this barricade up, and then this hurdle up, and then you got to revise this, and then you got to amend that, and it becomes a nightmare of regulation, frustration, red tape, and you're still in the game. That's what you think. I'm going to vote no.
Supervisor Clark.
Briefly,
just want to be really clear, this was not rejected by the federal government. There was a change of the rules at the end of the game, internal department rules, which were subject to a lawsuit, and attorneys got paid to litigate that. This was approved by the district office of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. That was a significant undertaking. They're now going to Washington to find out what other requirements, what additional information, what needs to be updated to receive that information. There is a short time frame as part of their settlement to do that. They are in a short time frame. I don't know the exact time frames. If somebody wants to know that, Mr. Olson spouted those dates off in a meeting. But once again, this is about an opportunity to have a substantial investment in our community, in jobs, and the people of this county have spoken relative to this position. We owe it to them for their investment.
Thank you. Supervisor Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't want to do this, but I'd like to remind our distinguished member who sits just behind me here and other members of this body that the federal agency that is responsible, the Office of the Secretary that is directly responsible for being involved in this, has had its hands full with people in the agency who've been having inappropriate relationships with lobbyists, like snorting cocaine off of toasters and having sex with them.
Supervisor Holman.
In addition to oil spills that were very, very large, fire sales of land that has minerals on the western portion of the United States, a $100,000 bathroom by the previous secretary that didn't really need to be there. These are things from the Office of the Inspector General, the watchdog. This has been at the bottom of the pile because there are other issues that needed perhaps more attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights, before us is resolution number 54. I've lost track of what number we're on. If you're in favor of the 90-day extension, you'll push your P and plus. If you're opposed, P and minus. For the record, this does coincide with what the city did. I don't know if that came up or not. 21-3, motion carries. Clerk.
Resolution 55 from Human Services Administration Finance Committee, a resolution to modify 2011 budget for additional funding for the Kenosha County WIC Program Demonstration Kitchen Project. Noble, yes. Gens, yes. Celebre, yes. Decker, yes. Arrington, yes. Kubicki, yes. Rose, yes. Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Gens, yes. Eckerness, yes. Rose, yes. Singer, yes. Grady, yes.
At this point, I'll pass the gavel to the Vice Chairman.
Supervisor Noble.
I move resolution 55.
Moved by Supervisor Noble, seconded by Supervisor Clark. Supervisor Noble.
The Health Division received additional funding of $13,332 for the Women, Infants, and Children's Program to purchase kitchen appliances and plumbing fixtures to be used in the creation of a demonstration kitchen for program participants. The Community Action Agency runs this program, and the kitchen will be located at their office. They will have 100 participants in the Fit Families program to show them how to utilize fruits and vegetables in cooking. And this will promote healthy eating and meal preparation for that group of people. So I encourage your support for this resolution.
Okay, on the question, I see no lights. Are we ready to vote? We'll have a roll call vote. All in favor, P and plus. Opposed, P and minus.
Clerk.
Resolution 56 from Human Service and Administration Finance Committee, a resolution to modify 2011 budget to add well-being classes funding. Noble, yes. Gens, yes. Celebre, yes. Decker, yes. Arrington, yes. Kubicki, yes. Rose, yes. Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Singer, yes. Gens, yes. Eckerness, yes. Rose, yes. Grady, yes.
Supervisor Noble.
Move resolution 56.
Resolution 56, moved by Supervisor Noble, seconded by Supervisor Clark. Supervisor Noble.
The Division of Aging and Disability Services received a $41,000 grant from UW-Madison Institute for Aging to provide well-being classes for older adults. The division will work with 2 UW researchers to test a program that was developed in Italy to increase well-being of older adults. Research indicates that older adults with higher levels of well-being have lower biological diseases risk and lead happier lives. The program involves an 8-week class, runs about 6 times a year. Funding will be used to contract for a part-time screener and class facilitators, class supplies, and participant transportations as well. I request your support.
Any other supervisor comments? Seeing none, this is budget modification. Roll call vote. All those in favor, P and plus. Those opposed, P and minus. Motion carries 24-0.
Resolution 57 from Human Service Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Patrice Hall as the Kenosha County Medical Examiner. Noble, yes. Gens, yes. Celebre, yes. Decker, yes. Kubicki, yes. Rose, yes.
Supervisor Noble.
I move Resolution 57.
Resolution 57 moved by Supervisor Noble, second by Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Noble.
Patrice Hall appeared before the Human Services Committee tonight, and she seems to have a passion for her profession. She is here tonight. Maybe she would like to stand up. She's in the back row. She was the deputy medical examiner at the Waukesha Medical Examiner's Office for 4.5 years. Prior to that, she worked at the Macomb County Medical Examiner's Office in Michigan for 2 years, and for 2 years as a funeral director in Fraser, Michigan. Ms. Hall has a master's degree in criminal justice, a post-bachelorate certificate in forensic investigation, and a bachelor's degree in mortuary science. She's currently the co-editor of the Wisconsin Coroner and Medical Examiners Association newsletter, and she's involved with the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. As I said before, she appears to have a passion for her profession, and the Human Service Committee endorses the approval and the appointment of Patrice Hall.
Any discussion on Resolution 57? Seeing no lights, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Hall, welcome to Kenosha County. We look forward to working with you.
Resolution 59 from Judiciary and Law Committee regarding confirmation of the appointment of Thomas W. Genther to the position of Director, Kenosha Joint Services. Michael, yes. Haas, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Singer, yes. Frederick, yes. Grulich, yes. Urban, yes.
Supervisor Jeff Gens.
I would move the nomination of Tom Genthner to the position of Director of Kenosha Joint Services.
Motion by Supervisor Jeff Gens, seconded by Supervisor Michael. Supervisor Gens.
Tom has, I've met with Tom a number of times, and he's come before the various committees, and with his skill set and what I've seen, I think he'll be a great addition to joint services as we move forward. So I would ask that you all support him. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly, in talking with various individuals, it has been mentioned that there's been concern as to how the county was going to be treated. I certainly trust Mr. Gentner in his professionalism and his ability to look out for the best interest of all of Kenosha County. I have no doubt that he will do that. I know the city of Kenosha had those very same concerns when Mr. Zarletti was put to the vote, and he received a unanimous vote from the city, and I am hoping that we have a unanimous vote from this county board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other supervisor comments? Seeing no lights, all those in favor of Resolution 59, roll call requested. All those in favor of Resolution 59, P and plus, those opposed, P and minus. Motion carries 24-0. Mr. Genthner, also to you, welcome to Kenosha County. I trust, go ahead. I trust you'll be with us for more than a week and a half. And I want to say, on behalf of certainly myself, you and I talked extensively throughout the course of the courting here, getting to this point in terms of your approval. I appreciate all of your candor and your forwardness, your honest answers. I also want you to note the time. Now, I believe you were involved with another branch of government here in the area recently. It is barely 9 o'clock. You're out the door. That's all I can tell you. We're welcome.
Resolution 60 from Judiciary and Law and Administration Finance Committees regarding organized crime drug enforcement task forces, Supplement 2 overtime funds. Michael, yes. Haas, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Singer, yes. Frederick, yes. Grulich, yes. Zerban, yes. Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Jeff Gens, yes. Eckerness, yes. Rose, yes. Singer, yes. Grady, yes.
Supervisor Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move resolution number 60.
Resolution 60 moved by Michael, seconded by Supervisor Clark. Supervisor Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is basically $10,000 given to the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department, the KDOG unit, which is the Sheriff's Drug Unit, from the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. I believe everybody in this room is familiar with the KDOG unit, which works with the federal government in tracking down drug dealers in this community. And this is for $10,000 that was spent in overtime by our Sheriff's Department. I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Gable, did you have something? Don't push it, I'll do it. There you go. Thank you. Seeing no lights, this is a budget modification requiring 2/3 vote. All those in favor, P and plus. Those opposed, P and minus. Motion carries 24-0.
Resolution 61 from Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee regarding proposed comprehensive plan amendment. Paul Alexiak, owner, requested an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035 from Park and Recreational to suburban density residential in the town of Randall. Brunig, yes. Esposito, yes. Kohlmeyer, yes. Underhill, yes. Decker, yes. Hallman, yes. Gable, yes.
For the record, I see a couple of you scratching on there. We had two resolution 60s in there. 61 is the last resolution in the agenda. Supervisor Brunig.
Move resolution 61.
Resolution 61 moved by Supervisor Brunig, seconded by Supervisor Kohlmeyer. Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These documents would approve an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035. The petitioner would then be able to continue the process to submit their application to the rezoning from park and recreational to suburban density residential on the aforementioned tax parcel number. The Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee reviewed this information at their September 14th meeting and recommended approval, as well as the town of Randall. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the question? Resolution 61. Seeing no lights, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, 61 carries.
Communication from Georgie Melcher regarding future items scheduled before the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee.
Refer to Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee.
Supervisor's comments.
Supervisor comments. Supervisor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my almost 10 years of being on this county board, I've always been able to call the county executive. I've always had the county executive be able to call me and share ideas. And from time to time, we're going to have differences of opinions in how to approach things. And I'm not quite sure what prompted a draft letter that was accidentally emailed to all supervisors with this Oktoberfest situation, but I was frankly shocked that the executive and the administration would even be wasting staff time in trying to outline the executive's accomplishments to me. And as I read through it, when I saw the flurry of emails flying around, I'm like wondering what's going on here. And it's just, you know, if you haven't read it, you should. But we've been able to accomplish great things here in Kenosha County, and we're going to continue to accomplish great things here in Kenosha County when the county board and the executive and the administration can respect our differences and approaches and ideas. You know, I'm just going to run through some accomplishments. I want to provide you with a list of forever cost reductions that I've implemented since taking office in 2008. Ended vacation payout for current employees, saving $145,000 a year. I would suggest that that issue has been brought to the forefront a couple times by me. I give the county executive credit for at least being willing to take up the issue, but when the issue was taken up, we took up half the issue, and we had to bring a resolution forward to address the sworn non-reps and let the county board take the heat to carry through on that policy. Ended county board health insurance for a saving of $200,000 a year. Supervisor Frederick, I think he spearheaded that issue and was tenacious in seeing that to an end. We talk about improving our management, our rating for management evaluation, county administration. That happened in right when the executive was elected. Certainly he has a lot of credentials. He has an educational background, and I think he does an excellent job. Certainly there are other people around the table, and this county board, I think, has contributed to those successes. The IGA, or for that matter, the cost savings compared to the Kenosha County Center. That Kenosha County Center idea was dead on arrival. For those of you that have been around here, you'll recall that we in Finance Committee figured out how to kill that by putting the $1 million or $1.5 million that they had in the fund that the previous administration squandered, spent beyond their appropriations because we put it into a contingency fund, and it would require 2/3 vote to move forward. Give the county executive credit for looking at all options in looking at this site, a site that we stood out there with the previous administration and were flat out lied to. So, you know, we talk about a bid on health insurance to save almost $500,000. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Bid out our stuff? That's why we're trying to take a look at contract policy. What is our policy? Something I've been pushing for years. This is what we're supposed to do. I could go on, but I was just shocked with some of these things. Tearing down Brookside to save $50,000 a year. I think we've talked about that for a long time. Finally, it's getting done. We work in partnership. I hope the county executive, although we can have differences of opinions as to how to accomplish things, I hope he knows that he can always call me or should be able to call any supervisor and doesn't have to waste the staff time to write a political letter about all his accomplishments. We accomplish things together. I think county board staff, I want to talk a little bit about this because certainly something I proposed, we discussed previously, and certainly I heard that it was a non-starter. It's an answer to a problem that doesn't exist. How can you add a position like this when we're in such a budget crunch situation? I brought this concept forward. I've been thinking about this concept for a while. It was a position that we previously had on the county board, or at least had budgeted, and it went away. But here's positions where we spend money to realize levy reduction. to realize savings. Brookside Care Center, we were asked to fund a social worker. It was an additional cost. Why did we do it? Because we were told that there was going to be a payback. Certainly there's a mix there. Certainly we haven't broken even like we would like to, but certainly the levy has been reduced significantly and it paid off. We're going to be asking this budget to spend over $800,000 on a management information system so we have better information to have analysis. We were asked to spend $900,000 on a black fiber project that's going to bring investment and tax base into this community. At the state level, we have these food share audits where they're spending $50,000 on auditors or on audits, and they found $350,000 in savings. I'm not proposing this position because I think that it'd be a good spot to have somebody. And I want to be real clear here in the public record. And there's rumors have gone around that maybe this was a position that I wanted. You got to be kidding me. When I walk out of here, I want nothing to do with county government. I've had my share. The budget situation. How can we add a position when we're laying off people and cutting and making cuts? And I would just suggest we were in the same boat last year, and we added positions, and we added a position to the county executive's office. Those are the facts. Sometimes I deal with problems, or addressing problems that don't exist. I deal with internal controls and setting up internal controls in business situations so there are checks and balances so those problems don't exist. But I'm going to finish up here. I looked at all the counties with a population of over 150,000. Milwaukee County, I'm not going to say that's our comparable, but they have staff coming out of their ears. Not only do they have county board staff, each supervisor has several staff members. I thought they had like 69 staff members. Dane County, maybe you can't say that's a comparative, but here they are. 3 1/4 staff members. Brown County, 2.68 staff members. Racine County had a half a position that they most recently moved into the clerk's office to share. And I took a look at our clerk's office, and I can tell you our clerk's office is not overstaffed when I look at their numbers comparative to other counties, and they are providing support to this county board as well. Outagamie County, 176,000 population. They have 3 county board staff positions. I've asked to take this one step. And we got caught up in, is this an auditor? I don't know that was the right name. I don't know whether the taxpayer advocate was the right name. Just different things have been floated out there. I'd like to say this county board is a taxpayer advocate as well. If you recall, we have a budget policy where we set the standard, and when that standard came in significantly higher than where we anticipated, we came in with permanent savings last year. We brought that back in line. And I could look at that policy and say, wonderful accomplishments there. I never once ran around and said, geez, look what I did. Look what I did when I first ran for county board. The levy was 7 to 8%. That was the norm. My first budget, the 2003 budget, 7 to 8%. I said, we're all sitting here patting each other on the back saying what a good job we did when we levied everything we could except for $25,000. We are significantly under the levy caps. That first year alone, there was a $2 million difference. And if I compounded those permanent changes and wiping out $2 million in not changing the way we look at things and look at, well, it's a 4% increase to somebody if you consider the inflation when we're at 7%, We made that shift. We're not running around taking credit, but if you compound it, today, our levy would be $23 million more if we had that same mentality. Not running around saying there's an accomplishment. Winnebago County, Walworth County has a 3/4 position. Rock County, they have a county administrator. They don't have county board staff, but they have support and they have directive from the county board chairman as to what they want done and evaluated. So I just want to, and I'm reading from some of these budgets, and I've looked at all of these county budgets. Here's what this position is supposed to do, or what they describe it as. Brown County, through the internal audit function, the county provides financial and program evaluations. Financial and program evaluations to assure cost-effective and efficient use of available resources. This position, when you load it up for our benefits and all those various different things, not going to come in at more than $100,000. Waukesha County, through the internal audit function, the county provides financial and program evaluations. I think this is Ozaki County. Staff responsibilities includes analysis, research, planning, program evaluations, policy development, committee staffing, administration, clerical, and support activities. This proposal is not about saying anybody was doing anything wrong. It's about having an independent evaluation, somebody that we could assign to get projects. I hope you at least consider it, look at the facts, look at the counties that are doing this, the larger counties that are doing this. I don't think they're doing it because they have their buddies and good old boys that they're trying to give jobs, but they're trying to be effective. And I would suggest if you look at their tax effectiveness, it's there. We talk about human services, trying to look at, last year, Supervisor Rose, when he was on the committee, trying to look at outcomes of these programs and how we're spending our money. And I think we have a $12 million levy. This is not about being critical of the administration at all. It's about having the county board have independent evaluation. So I just ask that you go into this, you look at it with open mind. We're going to get into a budget process. We, as Supervisor Kohlmeyer said last night, people are going to be looking for us to come in with a freeze. They don't want to see tax increases. They're not going to look for that this year. They're going to look, not only this year, they're going to look into the future. And this is the type of position that's going to help you be able to do that independently. So, with that, I have no other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk. I'm sorry. Let's see. Approval of the September 6th minutes by Supervisor Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of the September 6th minutes.
September 6th minutes moved by Michael, seconded by Supervisor Elverman. On the issue, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Brunick, seconded by Supervisor Rose. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, we're adjourned. Thank you all.